Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Dana and this is Delighted to DIY. Starting with one of these house-shaped blocks from Dollartree, I used my heat gun to heat the felt and flowers and my scraper to remove them. I then took a sanding block and some sandpaper, 80 grit from the Dollar Tree, and used it to sand off any remaining pieces that were left on. I constantly used my thumb just to see if it was smooth. Using Fusion mineral paint in the color Champness, I gave the block a good coat, actually a good 2 coats, front, back, sides, all of it. When the block was completely dry, I had taken to Cricut Design Space off camera and created this decal that said, "Welcome to our beach house." I weeded away the excess vinyl, bleh, can't speak, then used some transfer tape from Dollar Tree to apply it. I didn't like the position of them together, so I simply cut them in half and applied both pieces separately. Once the decal was on, I realized I didn't like the dots, so I removed those off camera. Using some white chalk paint by Bear and a sponge brush, I lightly went around the edges of the block. Then I took the same white chalk paint and coated a seashell. Using my hot glue gun, I applied glue around the edges and stuck this on the top of the block, and that was it for DIY number 1. For this DIY, we're going to start with a charger plate from Dollar Tree and some 80 grit sandpaper and give the whole front a scuff sand to help the paint adhere. Using a mixture of Fusion mineral paint in Champness and some white Bear chalk paint, I mixed the two together to get a lighter color and gave the plate 2 coats. Using a 7-inch cork trivet from Dollar Tree, I gave it a good coat and on the sides in white chalk paint by Bear. To seal both these pieces, I used Deco Art's matte decoupage and gave each piece a good coat. Today's video is part of a Friends Hop hosted by Sonja at Domestic Diva DIY. I'll have her link to her channel in my description box below. She gives the theme of summer, and I will have the link to the next person listed in my description box. Make sure to check it out. Hop to the next person, they'll give you a link to the next one, and so on till you're back at me, and that means you've completed the whole loop. With thicker jute cord from Dollarama and my glue gun, I covered the entire lip of the charger plate. I did this but left 4 spaces evenly placed, similar to north, east, south, and west, where thinner jute cord or twine is going to be wrapped around. It's kind of easier to see in the video right here where I left some glue off. And hopefully it makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments below. Here I am marking the 4 spots I was mentioning, top, bottom, side and side. So 12, 3, 6, and 9 sort of thing. Then I continued gluing with the hot glue around and left about a 1.5 inch space, as you saw there. And then continued gluing. So every time I got to one of the marks, again, I would leave about a 1.5 inch unglued section and then continue on. I taped some jute twine from Dollar Tree onto half a coffee stir stick using some masking tape. then used it to help me weave it under the openings we left in the 4 places around the charger. As you see here, I'm sliding it under, and then I pulled out probably about 4 feet of the twine, then slipped it back around. Now you don't want to pull too tight, as that'll start to bring together your thicker jute cord that's along the rim. You'll want to continue doing this till it's about, I don't know, 1.5 inches, or till your eye is happy. I didn't really count how many rounds I did, but then I used some of my hot glue to finish it off and then trim the ends with my scissors. Repeat this in the other 3 openings, and then you'll have something that looks kind of like a life ring. Now with the trivet that you painted white and some hot glue, add a generous amount, then position this in the center of your charger plate. Off camera again, I found a free compass decal on KaluaDesigns.com. Then with my makeup sponge from Dollar Tree and some matte Mod Podge from Dollar Tree, I gave the stencil a light coat, let that dry to help prevent any bleeding from the paint, using the same color you've seen throughout the rest of the video, the champness from Fusion Mineral Paint. I dabbed this on with a makeup sponge. I gave it 2 coats. After the paint was almost dry, I removed the stencil using my fingers and the pick tool from Cricut. I made sure to carefully use it, not digging into the trivet, as I knew it would make marks. Then I took a skewer stick and the white matte chalk paint from Bear, and also a small brush to make any touch-ups where the paint had bled. I did this all the way around. Because the touch-up paint was still obvious after it dried, I took a rough chip brush from Dollar Tree and dry brushed very lightly over the front. Then using a small paintbrush, I took the white matte paint and painted in the 4 parts of the Lifesaver, and that was it for DIY number 2. Using a wooden garden tag from Dollarama, I'm going to place it on the end of one of the bamboo spatulas from Dollar Tree, then cut 2 identical same size. I used my scissors to trim and round the edges of these till they were to my liking. Then I decided I didn't like it like that. It needed to be a bit shorter, so I cut it shorter. Using the sanding block from Dollar Tree, I sanded off any of the rough spots left from where I made the cuts. Using hot glue, I glued these pieces onto the ends, lining them up with the tip of the spatula. Then using the sanding block again, I gave the fronts and backs of the wooden spatulas a quick scuff sand, just so that the paint would adhere better. I gave both pieces 2 good coats of white chalk paint by Bear using just a regular brush, and I allowed each coat to dry in between. With metallic tape from Dollarama that I got probably years ago and that you wouldn't find now, but washi tape would do the same duty, I created a chevron pattern. I wanted an ombre effect, working from darkest to lightest. So the first part that is being painted here was in the full strength of Champness by Fusion Mineral Paint. Then the next section, triangle that is, or chevron that is being created now, will be the Champness color and a mixture of white Bear paint that you see me mixing here. And then the third, where it goes up the handle, will be a slightly lighter with just more white paint being added in. Again, hopefully this makes sense, but if it doesn't, please let me know in the comments. You'll also have to let me know which one of these DIYs today was your favorite. I think I have to say this one turns out to be my favorite. But you'll have to let me know. And of course, if you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps. And please, if you want to see more, consider subscribing to my channel. I am still very new, but I'm enjoying this a ton and can't wait to keep creating more for you guys. Lining the two paddles side by side, I marked the beginning and ends of where the tape went. Then I used my ruler to mark the center, which made it easier to find the middle point, which I should have probably done on the first one, but didn't think of it till after. Now I'm taking a little more of the metallic tape and wrapping it around the necks to clean up the edges. I also use the same white paint and small paintbrush to clean up the chevrons anywhere that the white or, well, the blue had had bled through. I cleaned it up with some more of the white paint. Using this canvas drop cloth that I got from Dollarama, we're going to create a backing for the paddles, as well as using two more of the wooden garden tags. Here I'm just lining up and eyeing what size I wanted and using my ruler to mark my cut lines. I marked where I wanted to cut. Then using the scissors, I just cut off the ends of the two wooden garden tags. Used my sanding block from Dollartree to sand off the roughed edges. Then gave these a stain using some Martha Stewart paint, watered down, and a baby wipe to apply them. Here I was marking where I wanted them. I didn't want the drop cloth to be this exact same size. I wanted it to be slightly smaller than the wood frames at the top and bottom. For me, it turned out to be 10 inches, so I took my ruler and marked 10 inches in increments down, then used my ruler to create the line and cut down it. Next, I took some hot glue and glued one of the tags to the top, placed my paddles for eye reference to see where I wanted them, then marked because I had to cut a little bit more off the bottom. It was just a little too long. And then using the hot glue to kind of make a finished edge, I put hot glue along the cut edge that we just made and folded this over. Then used some more hot glue and added the bottom wood tag to our newly created backing of a sign. I placed the two paddles in a cross position in the center of the canvas and used my eye to center these, then used hot glue to glue them in place. The bottom one I glued all along the drop cloth, and then the second one I glued in the center where the two meet. Then again at the bottom of the flat part of the paddle where it connects to the canvas. And because the canvas is not rigid, it's flowy. Not sure what exactly I'm trying to say here. I also used hot glue to glue it down where the top part is, or the butt of the paddle. I'm not sure what exactly it's called. Here I used some painter's tape to tape off two triangles on either side and found that a dabbing motion with my brush helped add the color to the canvas much better than a painting stroke motion. Again, this was in our favorite color of the day, Champness by Fusion Mineral Paint. I added on a hanger with hot glue, and that was it for DIY number 3.